I always make sure. Oh, Scott, that's good. I didn't know you had
got the
some
moves.
right there. You got the moves, sir. I love it. Hey, good morning, everybody. Welcome to the 7th DuPage Real Producers Jam Session. I got a great crew. I say that every time because it's true every time. And these are individuals who took the time out of their busy schedule just to kind of pour into one another, live in community, live in relationship, and sharpen each other. You know, there's a lot of moving parts to make a real estate transaction work, and I've just found like it's refreshing to me just to see the industry come together in the last year. And a lot of people have communicated to me, which makes me feel good. I don't know if it blows my ego up or whatever, that hey, you're plugging people in, you're getting the right types of minds to just come together and talk shop and pour into one another. So obviously a year ago at this point, you know, I think it was mainly more or less like figured out. I think there was like a big scare between, you know, middle of March and I want to say like end of May. That was like the point of like, hey, is real estate going to be deemed necessary? Are we going to all be employed, you know, quote unquote? And here we are. So I'm going to get into the meat and potatoes of this. Let's face it, you guys aren't here to hear me blab, but I do have to set the table a little bit. And I'm going to allow the realtors to introduce themselves, allow the partners to introduce themselves. And we're going to start jamming and talking shop because it's a crazy market. So that being said, Shannon, go ahead.
Hey, everybody. Well, thank you, Andy and DuPage Real Producers for having me on today with such an esteemed panel. I'm happy to be here. I'm Shannon Tully. I am a broker and a realtor, and right now I am at Platinum Partners Realtors located in downtown Downers Grove. I got my license in 2014 and have been working as a realtor ever since, a full-time broker. And I love it. It's a very challenging position for sure. It has its own unique sets of challenges. I started my professional career as a registered nurse, and I thought that was challenging too. So anyway, that's just a quick little snip about me. Love to hear about everyone else. Thanks.
Glad you're on, Shannon. I'm Deneen Ruffalo with Realty Executives Midwest here in Darien off of Plainfield Road. Been here for 11 years and happy to be on Real Producers. Thanks for inviting me, Andy. Love what I do. Kind of been in this industry for a very long time. From being a decorator to building homes, and Jana Pintz, my managing broker, kind of sucked me into real estate. So happy she did. Glad I'm here and having fun every day. Never, as all of you know, we never get the same problem twice. So, you know, we have fun doing what we do. So glad to be here and looking forward to a fun hour.
Hi, I'm Meredith Van Syckle. I'm with Berkshire Hathaway in Downers Grove, and I made the transition to real estate from corporate finance about 2.5 years ago. Excited to be here. So thanks, Andy, for the invite.
Thanks for hopping on. Go ahead, Debbie.
Good morning. I'm Debbie Pollowicz. I'm the owner and designated managing broker of DPG Real Estate right here on Main Street in Lisle. And I have been doing real estate for a very long time. I started in 1985, where most people, it's a second, third career. That was not my case. I went right into real estate and have loved it ever since. And Deneen, I like what you said. It's there's a different challenge every day. so happy to be on here. Thank you, Andy.
No, you guys are welcome, and just thanks for engaging and carving the hour out. I will say this, I'm gonna allow the partners to introduce themselves. The reason that we do what, the reason I technically am employed, I guess, is because of our partners. I cannot put the puzzle together every month and have my staff do, plan everything that they do without Kelly, Woytec, and Scott. I mean, these are people who have actually stuck with us since day one. And I remember, hey, when are events going to be resuming? We are at that point. And I mean, one of the draw to our platform is the in-person events. Everybody likes to, Zoom is great, hanging out's great, but like there's just nothing better than cutting loose, having food and drinks in the same room together. And so obviously we want to be mindful and respectful of that, but at the same time, and these are the businesses who float us. So one thing I will say, and you guys didn't know this, this Facebook Live session is actually sponsored by all the individuals on here, Kelly, Scott, and Woytec. So people ask me all the time, hey, do you guys have a digital version of the magazine? And the short answer is yes, but it's on an app. It's called Digipub, D-I-G-A, P as in Paul, U as in umbrella, B as in boy. And so you won't find it online. We pride ourselves in being a non-pay-to-play model for realtors. If you see a realtor featured in Real Producers, the branding is very intentional. It is a real producer. They're not paying us to be featured. And so, however, everybody has access to the app. They eventually will more than likely start charging for it. So I've been encouraging people to download the app, because if you get it on your phone, even if you never look at it, and just get it on your phone and set up an account, you'll be grandfathered in if they do start charging monthly for it eventually. And so one thing I do want to also share, and Kelly didn't know I was going to do this, but I love it when we see our partners, just kind of like driving around town. This is yesterday. This is on the corner of Humboldt and Armitage. I know, I was like driving, picking my kids up from school. I'm like, hey, I know that logo. So Woytec, Scott, I mean, if you guys have a moving truck around town and have your brand and logo on it, I'll have you on another jam session. We'll do this, but sorry, it's just my nature. I had to do this. So I'm going to quit blabbing. I'm going to let the partners introduce themselves, and we're going to get into the crux of this. So
Andy,
Kelly,
you were at a
fire
red
away.
light when you took that picture, right?
I'm not putting it up again.
Well, thank you, Andy. That's awesome. We love to see our trucks around and people actually see us doing what we love to do. I'm Kelly Bennett from Boerman Moving Storage. Sorry if it's a little loud in here. I'm in the office and we are crazy busy this year. As you guys all know, the market is insane. We have a 58,000 square foot warehouse and running out of space because people are moving as quickly as possible and don't have anywhere to put their stuff yet. Thanks to you guys, you're selling their houses super quick, which is awesome. But yeah, so we've been around since 1926 and I've been here for about 4 years. So yeah.
Everyone, my name is
Go ahead,
Woytec.
man.
I'm an owner and operator of Elite Inspections. We doing home inspections. I started in my real estate about 10 years ago in different roles. I started as a investor, then I was a buyer's agent for a year and a half, and I quickly realized that how hard and stressful this agent's job is, and I just quit that. And I became an inspector 5 years ago, and we're doing that since. And I, like you guys, I love this job. I just, every day I'm regretting that I didn't start the inspection earlier. But here I am, and thank you, Andy, for the invitation.
And I'm Scott Brauer. I'm a real estate attorney in Naperville, Illinois. Started my career as a prosecutor in DuPage County. And then eventually switched over to real estate when I went out on my own. And like all of you, I am just thrilled with the relationships that it brings. I love meeting my clients, agents, lenders, attorneys, and just find a lot of joy in doing it every day. And unfortunately, I don't have a moving truck yet, but I do have a bag set that has my logo on it. So I don't know if that's quite the same, but I'm working my way up to the truck.
Hey man, if you text me a picture right now, I'll interrupt somebody when they're making like the best point ever, and then show the screenshot. Kidding, obviously, but for the next one, definitely Scott for sure. So that's it. This is the part where I get out of the way. I mean, obviously, the reason I like these is because we usually schedule these a few weeks, sometimes a month out, and people ask me all the time. They're like, "Hey, can we do set topics?" Sometimes we have. But a lot of times the market changes within a month. So the thing that I love about these is they're, real time, up to date. So let's just start jamming. I know, Deneen, you had a great kind of lead in when we were sort of pre-gaming. So why don't you take the baton and run with it? Because I think what you had mentioned earlier was a hot topic.
Sure. So, I wish that we had set topics, Andy, because like I open up my my email and, we're getting bombarded with emails from Main Street and NAR and every avenue that we have available to us. This morning, Main Street sent over the updated eviction moratorium on modified rules for tenants and landlords opening up, now that COVID is opening up in Illinois, woohoo. What are landlords able to do to let loose on the tenants that haven't paid during COVID? And, obviously, it's an issue. We have people that have lost their jobs and lost people in their lives and have been gone through a suffering stage, but at the same token, the landlords have suffered too. And now that is going to be coming open that landlords are going to be able to evict those tenants. I kind of wanted to see what everybody's thought was with how crazy our market's been with sales on homes. As this opens up and we can start evicting some of these tenants, what is everybody feeling is going to happen to that rental market out there?
That's a really good question. I've actually had to deal with this personally over the last 6 months. I have a client that is out of the country and has asked me to sell his rental property. And the tenant, because of COVID, used COVID as a reason for being not comfortable with showing the property. So I could not show the property and therefore could not really list the property because even I couldn't go in to examine the property to get it ready to list. So my client, the seller, was basically just put on hold for, it's been at least 6 months now. Now that the moratorium is beginning to be released, and I'd love to hear a little bit more from Scott about the actual details of that, because there are some nuances to that moratorium being discarded or put aside a bit. I think there are some details to that, so it's not an across the board relief of the moratorium. And so it's been very challenging for my client. He really hasn't known how to go about it. I haven't really been able to help him because your hands were sort of tied. So it's incredibly frustrating. And as you said, Deneen, I agree that you have great compassion for all the people that have had to deal with it, all of us included. But on both sides, either landlord or tenant, it's been difficult for everybody.
And thanks for that introduction again. But yeah, I deal with this quite a bit, obviously, as the attorney on the side. I get a lot of people that are like, what do we do? And we can stay on topic now, but it even crosses over into, pre and post closing possession things, correct? I mean, if somebody decides not to buy the house or not to move out, what do you do then? But I do know that in May, Governor Pritzker signed a law for rental relief. So I think the concept behind it is to assist landlords and tenants in moving on and getting out of their current situation. And so what you can do is there's a website, illinoishousinghelp.org, and you can apply for up to $25,000 in rental relief through this government program. And it's designed to help landlords that are, a year behind catch up, help a tenant who can't make the payments, not go into, debt or get a judgment against them, and then hopefully get these houses back on the market. One of the things it also does is it's going to seal eviction records from March of last year until March of next year, I believe, where landlords won't be able to see that there was some sort of eviction action against a tenant. So a tenant comes in, makes an application, there will be no record of that eviction on them to, essentially hurt them in getting the next rental place. So I think the
Oh.
government is trying to step in to try to fix this, because obviously, as we all know, there's a lot of people behind on rent. And some of them, like we said, we're compassionate with because of a loss of job, those types of things. But there's also those tenants that are just taking advantage of the system and hurting a landlord. And so there are some steps that are in place to try to hopefully smooth this oncoming wave of evictions. And I guess we'll just have to wait and see how that all plays out once it starts happening, because I think that can start happening as of August the 1st.
What was that website again, Scott?
It's IllinoisHousingHelp.org.
Thank you.
I'll put it in the Facebook chat too. Thanks. That's awesome.
Yeah, no, and there's a bunch of criteria that you have to meet based on your area and where you live. But at least it's something that we can start helping some of these people transition.
When that moratorium should be lifted? What date?
I believe it's August the 1st.
August 1st, okay.
I have not been impacted at all with any landlords yet, but I recently represented a buyer who was purchasing a townhome that there was a tenant in there, and that was one of our concerns is the tenant going to leave? So we had our attorney write in some language that my buyer would not close until we knew that the unit was vacant and he would be able to take possession and move in right away. So luckily we didn't have any issues, but I think that just provided a little bit of comfort to my buyer that we added that additional language, and he knew he wouldn't get stuck taking over a tenant.
And nobody wants to evict someone or be evicted, of course, but this is one more step towards normalcy, and to have that balanced market that we need. So these homes can go back on the market if they so choose to sell them. And it just makes everything go back to pre-COVID and move people forward in their lives.
With all this going on, do you guys see that landlords are going to keep these homes as rentals, or do you think they're going to put them on the market to sell them because they don't want to go through all of this any longer?
I think you're going to get a little bit of both. Some are not being forced landlords anymore because our sale prices are elevated as before, or I shouldn't say they're elevated, they're more than they were before. So some people were being forced into being landlords because they couldn't sell them. So right now you'll probably see some, and we have put them on the market so they can sell their investment and do what they want with that money forward, and others just write it off as terrible time, move forward and on to the next tenant. That's how I see it.
Yeah, I agree with Debbie. I think that, we often as realtors get the question, is now the right time to sell, or is now the right time to buy? And there is no right answer to that question. It really depends on your own life and your own life circumstances. So I think the answer to that rental, do I sell my investment property, it's the same answer. Do you still want to do what you do? Do you still want to manage property and be a landlord, or is it the right time in your life to let that part of it go and move on to something else?
Sure. Yeah.
I think Debbie said the right word, and that's normalcy. I think a lot of landlords that I've dealt with, and and investors and the like, if they can get back to being able to evict tenants that aren't paying, going back to that normal process, they're happy to do it. But if the government or this pandemic continues, or we have a flare up or something changes again, then their tolerance is just a lot lower, because they just don't, it's the uncertainty. It's the uncertainty of knowing whether I'm going to be stuck with a tenant that doesn't have to pay me and there's nothing I can do about it, or I can take steps to protect myself and my investment.
Now, the interesting part to that is there have been some landlords who actually say that their payments have never been more on time from their tenants than ever before, because the tenants are getting the relief checks, and at the time that they weren't able to go anywhere or spend their money on other areas, they're paying their bills right off. So you do have both sides of the coin on that.
Sure. Makes sense.
And Woytec, has it, and Kelly for that matter, since you guys don't deal with a lot of landlord tenant issues, have you guys seen, I mean, I'm assuming with the market as crazy as it's been, you really don't have any impact by this issue whatsoever?
Not really. You know, obviously, you know, during the inspection, you know, I inspecting the homes with tenant, and obviously tenants never happy that I'm doing home inspection, which kind of understand because I have to go through their stuff. But I just got whatever it is, I have to do my job. But yeah, I still see a lot of people buying, and probably you guys see that every day. It's I see a lot of people still buying up rental properties, you know, in different areas.
Mhm.
I got a lot of requests for 2-3 units, even like 4-6 units.
Yeah, and I would say in the moving world, we have, I mean, our storage is insane because people are selling their home so quick, as I mentioned, as we talked before, that they're selling so quick that they have to go into a rental. So I don't think this necessarily affects those people because they're just moving straight into a rental for the time being, and then planning on moving out and getting their stuff out. So our storage is crazy with rentals being so needed. So it would be interesting if landlords do start selling their rentals and those are no longer places that people can go to. I don't know. I'm just interested in to see where that goes then, because if there aren't places for people to rent, what are they going to do in the time being?
Well, that's actually very on point in that I have multiple clients asking me, well, how do I coordinate the sale and a purchase? And I don't have a good answer for them because the buying market is so competitive that when you do sell your property, you have nowhere to go. And that's very unsettling for people, that they have nowhere, they have no place where they're going to settle. And so are they going to have to find a rental? I have clients looking for rentals too, that they can't find adequate rentals either. So that's really challenging for them.
It's good business for extended stay hotels, because I know at least like 3 clients, they sold the house and then they inspected the house, and inspection didn't go as supposed to, and they stay in the extended stay and they're looking for a house.
That's insane. I couldn't imagine just indefinitely living in a hotel with kids or any, you know, a family and stuff. It's just, it's wild right now.
Or a lot of family togetherness, you know, grandparents.
Yeah, which can be great to an extent, I would say.
Short term.
It was great for the first 6 months of the COVID pandemic. 6 months, I loved being with my family for 6 months.
So now
but I'm over it now.
Yeah, exactly. Has anyone seen it here? I know on the coast they've done this. I haven't done this personally, but the reverse contingency where they're allowing the seller to have 45 days to be able to purchase a home. So I haven't seen it here. Have you guys?
I haven't seen it personally, but I've heard of it happening.
Okay.
I actually had a contract, Debbie, for a client that had a great house in Downers Grove and was presented a contract with that. First time I experienced that type of contract, and they wanted the house, and unfortunately my clients had 2 small children, and they were just uncomfortable because they were like, if we can't find anything, what are we going to do? We can't just uproot our family and move into a moving truck and hope we could find somewhere to live. So they turned the contract down. But I've seen it. Agents, I think at this point, so many of us are just trying to do whatever we can. Scott, I'm sure you can attest to that with the contracts you're seeing come in your office too, to try to get things through for our clients, buyers and sellers.
Scott, are you going crazy with our demands?
No, not at all. It's how I feed my family, right? So any demands you guys have, we'll take care of. But obviously the appraisal issue has been a huge one that we've dealt with. But I have had 2 or 3 contracts come in now with the seller's ability to go out and find another house. And from the seller's perspective, I'm all for it. Great, you have some time. You can make a decision in the next 30 to 45 days. From the buyer's perspective, it's a little bit challenging though, because I said, look, you could sit here and wait for this house for 45 days and the seller says, I can't find a house. I'm sorry, I'm canceling the contract. And I know it works with sale contingencies all the time. I said, but it's a real risk. And the flip side of that is buyers are offering seven contracts and finally getting one. And so I think they're kind of in a position where like, well, we're going to roll the dice and see what happens.
And Scott, have you seen that happen a lot where your sellers have then backed out because they haven't found anything, or are most of them finding something and it is working?
So far on the few the three that I've had, it's been split. I had one seller cancel because they couldn't find something. Another one went through, and the third one's actually still pending. They have up until like July 15th to find a house. But so it's kind of a mixed bag. And I feel like I've talked to enough people in the industry lately that says the market is kind of flattened a little bit as far as activity. But every agent I talk to still says they have buyers lined up looking for houses and just can't find a place.
Mm-hmm. Right. I think buyers are somewhat hesitant now because they have seen what we've had to do in order to try and get their contracts, one, to be selected by a seller. So when buyers are going in, I'd like to ask the other brokers, how comfortable are you pushing your clients? How far will you push your clients to try and get them to see the options of what they have to go through to get their offer selected? You know, we're seeing hard earnest money now, the contract's not contingent on appraisal, all of these things that we really never really saw before. Now we're seeing buyers going out on the limb to try and get their offers selected, or 25,000 over asking, crazy things happening. How have you all been working with your buyers and navigating those kinds of scenarios? What have you found out?
Yeah,
I think the most important thing is upfront setting the expectations with my clients, and so that they know what they're getting themselves into. And I think every client situation is a little bit different, but let's say they do have a strong financial position where they do have a strong down payment, then maybe we don't need to be as aggressive with price, and we can talk to them about how that will benefit them, and some of the terms we don't need to be as aggressive on, versus a client that maybe doesn't have that. They have to be willing to make some of the other terms better. So I think it's just setting expectations up front, and if they're up for it, then we help them, and we've done our job.
I think it's our job to lay out the options, tell them what's typical right now in the market, and show them what we've been dealing with, and they have to pick and choose what's most comfortable for them. When you have someone who's waiving an inspection, I cringe. I just cringe. I actually don't think that puts the seller in a good spot either, if God forbid something happens later. In a lot of these I would cringe at, but this is what's happening in this marketplace. So if you want to enter this marketplace, you have to at least know that this is all on the table.
Yeah, I think Meredith and Debbie, you both hit it on the head. I think as agents, it's our due diligence to be honest with our clients, and sometimes that doesn't mean a sale because of our honesty. And I always attack it from that angle that maybe it's not the right time to purchase right now. Because of what's going on, and maybe your financial background. If you're a first-time buyer, how are you going to compete with someone that's a seasoned buyer and has perhaps a more seasoned down payment amount, or maybe they're not FHA lending? You just can't compete as a certain type of buyer. So, you talk to them and be honest and say, maybe we have to wait 6 months until the market kind of catches up or balances out a little bit, or appraisals catch up, and wait it out. Not that we want to talk anybody out of a sale, but at the same token, it's our reputation too. You don't want to cringe at somebody not doing a home inspection, because God forbid they buy the house and something that could have been avoided perhaps comes out, you're going to feel guilty. We all still want to go to sleep at night and know that we did everything we could for our buyers, or did what we were supposed to do for our sellers. And that's how I attack it. So I really lay it out for both clients, to make sure everybody's on board with how crazy this market is. And, to Scott's point, I think that the market has kind of flattened a little bit. People are starting to see gas prices and food prices going up, and I don't know. Yeah, there's still people out there wanting to buy and sell, but I just don't see it as crazy as it's been the past 2 months.
I agree. I feel like it's transitioning, right? We're still having situations where we see lots of offers being put out there. If you're representing the seller, you have lots of buyers coming through. But I do get a feeling that it's starting to transition into hopefully a more normalized or balanced market.
I think it's,
Yeah. Oh, go on. I'm sorry.
I was just going to say, I think it's huge for you guys to be that educational piece for your clients. I mean, there's so many people that still just look on the websites and things and just look for a home and don't understand why they can't find anything. And for you guys to sit down and say, this is exactly what's happening, and having that clear mind and of everything that's happening in the market and being so educational for all of your clients, I think that's huge. And being upfront and honest and all of those things that you guys listed, that's huge. Even if it, like you said, means you don't get the sale right now or whatever, they're going to remember you and say, they told me what was actually happening. They didn't let me make a stupid decision. I think that's huge for you guys.
I think too, I deal with a lot of clients because they'll ask when we get these appraisal contingencies in, and my philosophy kind of has always been to them is, well, what's your purpose in buying this house? If it's like, hey, it's a starter home, we're going to be there for 2 years, then maybe you don't want to go $30,000 over the asking price because you're never going to see your money back out of it. But if this is, we're going to raise our kids here, they're going to go through high school here, we're going to be here for the next 15 or 20 years, then $10,000 or $15,000 in the long run isn't going to make a difference to get the house of your dreams that's going to be your family home. And so I think sometimes we get caught up in the financial side of things. And I know you guys all do this every day of your lives, having to deal with the counseling people, and you're a therapist and you're, a social worker and all these things that you have to do for them. But, there is other factors that go into it when you're looking at whether they're going to go over ask or not. And we're going back to the whole as is thing as well. If I see that, I call my clients immediately and say, the $500 you're going to spend on an inspector like Woytec is worth your $300,000 investment. You'd rather cancel it for $500 and know what, that you saved yourself, rather than buying a huge problem. And that's my question for you, Woytec, too, is, how many of the inspections, and I don't know if you see all the contracts or not, but do you know how many of the inspections you do are based on as-is homes? Because we're getting more and more of those.
At that point, I would say 50-50. It's like, people are very open about that. Before I start inspection, it doesn't matter to me. But before I get to the home, they are like, I just want to let you know this is as is. And I'm just, I just see it like probably 50% of my inspection, it's as is, but they still taking the inspections because I was afraid that people started waiving the inspections and like, hey, you know what, as is, and I don't need an inspector. But no, it's not the trend. It's people getting a lot of as is, like I said, 50-50, but they still want an inspection.
They need to know what they're buying. They need to know. I just stick with that one. So.
Yeah, but they all very open and very beginning, either agent or a client is like, I just want to let you know that as is. Like I said, from my point of view, it doesn't matter. But yeah, it's 50% at least.
And I know we were talking a minute ago too about the, the transitional phase here and what we're kind of, been looking at. And Meredith, maybe I'll ask you this question first, but like, what does that look like moving forward here into the second half of the year?
No
Yeah.
pressure. This is gospel. So, no pressure or anything.
Yeah,
Just kidding.
we all
Go
just,
ahead.
whatever you say is what it's going to be.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I have not been surprised that the last couple weeks have been a little bit quieter. I was kind of expecting it just with, I think last summer, people didn't have a summer. They didn't get out and see their friends. They didn't travel. And so I was expecting that, now maybe through 4th of July, maybe even a little bit later, that the market would be a little bit slower. And that's kind of what I've seen the last couple of weeks. But I am interested in others' perspectives too, on what they think, we'll see this fall and winter. I think the market is still going to stay strong. I'm hopeful that we won't see the price appreciation that we've seen the last couple of months and that it will slow down a little bit, but I do think it'll pick back up in the fall when people kind of get back in their normal routines again.
I agree. I think the market's going to stay strong too, at least throughout the end of the year. I think the big concern, at least that I have personally, and maybe most people out there do too, is the fear of the inflation that has been predicted to be coming because of all of the federal spending. So how that's going to impact the markets with people having to spend more of their money and having it go less far, I guess that's a concern that I have. And is that going to impact the ability to have buyers buying homes? How strong is that going to be as we move on throughout the year? Anybody have any comments on that?
Kelly, do you guys do any sort of like projections out for moving companies to kind of plan for the future? Do you guys have any of those kind of models or anything?
I mean, we look at the past years, but that has nothing to do with anything that has been going on, as all of us have experienced, I think. So I don't have any of that data necessarily because everything's been so crazy. I don't think like January 1st, we started getting crazy again. And usually that doesn't start until school's starting to end, that springtime, we're usually about a month behind you guys of our crazy busy. But it's been crazy since January. So I think it's just interesting to me to see now that people are going back into their offices and schools are opening back up. You can't just remote from home as much as we all did before. Now I'm curious to see if people will need to move closer to their jobs again also. So
Yeah,
I don't know.
I think that might be why we have this little lull is that, with Pritzker opening the state of Illinois again, people are leaving their houses and going back to the office. So we have this new turmoil of now we're all leaving the home office, going back to work. Life is kind of back up in arms. Families have to find daycare again. And, what are we going to do with the kids? And now we're in summer and we have to find daycare and nannies and kind of readjust our life all over again. It's been a year, a year and a half, and that's a lot of adjusting. And you can't add, looking for houses or selling your house with all of that going on. So I kind of see this being a little bit of a slow time for the summer, and agree with Shannon and Meredith that the fall is probably going to be, a little bit of a pickup when people kind of stabilize, know that their job is secure, and want to downsize or get something larger.
Yeah, I agree as well. I have been, troubled with finding the correct adjective to describe what's happening right now. And I think I'm using it's calmed down just a moment here. I don't think we could say it's slow, it's, or anything like that, because what's a balanced market? A balanced market is like 5 months of inventory. We're still 1 month or less of inventory on the market. So, homes are still selling. We're just not getting maybe some are, but we're not getting the 40 showings in one day, that frenzied activity that we're doing. But we could only sell the home once. So all the other people who have been looking at the house and who have been wanting to purchase a home, some have found other homes, some may have backed off and said, hey, I'm out of the game till next year or whenever it may be, but a majority of them are still wanting to purchase a home. So as long as there's buyers out there, we're still going to have a good market. It just might not be as frenzied, and maybe that's a good thing, as it was before.
Right.
So that's my
We can
2
take our
cents.
gym shoes off for a while. Put the flip flops on.
Have you guys seen an influx? Because I saw a lot of people that are like, during COVID, I don't want anybody in my house. I don't want anybody walking through my house. I'm just nervous. And now that those restrictions are being lifted, do you think inventory is going to go up since we've struggled with inventory for so long?
I feel like inventory is still going to stay low for, I think the next 6 months to even a year. And I don't think I see this as much as down in Downers Grove. I think new construction in Downers Grove, there's still new houses going up everywhere. But I think if you look a little bit further west, new construction has slowed down quite a bit because of, like Shannon, what you were saying, inflation and the cost of materials has gone up so much. And I think that that's going to have a trickle down effect 6 months to a year from now and impact our inventory. I think that just across the Chicago area, maybe not as much, in Downers Grove, where the new construction is more like luxury.
I don't see, Scott, to your question, I don't know that there's that many people that are still, as you say, COVID crazy, that don't want people in the house. Accepting of people coming to their house. And I don't think that's going to change.
Yeah, I can see that too. Before I, like a year ago or even 6 months ago, when I get to the house, it's like people are like kind of very protective. You have to wear a mask and gloves and stuff like that. Right now, I can see big change. People seems like they don't care anymore. Yeah, of course, I still wearing mask, but people are just right now they're like more
open,
relaxed about it.
I think with the expanded use of the vaccine, I think people are getting more and more comfortable with now allowing people to come into their homes. Several of my latest appointments, people are like, oh yeah, come on in, take off your mask, you don't need to wear it. Yeah. So that gives me real hope that things are starting to get back to normal. And that's just a great feeling. We've been without it for so long.
We've really had our pulse on the thoughts of people's minds about COVID through this whole transition. Remember, day one, we had gloves on, we had the masks on, we stood away, and then it went to, they saw what I did. If I was wearing a mask, they would wear a mask, and then everybody wore masks, so we went through the transitions along the way. So I think we're seeing it. We have to be so thankful though, to our associations as well for fighting for us. This could have been a completely different year if we were not considered, essential. And we do have to thank our lobbyists, that we don't think lobbyists usually, but in this case, our year would have been completely different. I think our inventory coming up, and I know we always say that we have this lack of inventory. However, it's a lack of inventory because I'm seeing, and tell me what you guys think, because of the demand. They're selling quickly. So when I look at stats, I see we've sold more houses this year than we've sold in the past year. So that means that the lack of inventory is because of the demand, and they're off the market. So we're not carrying all those listings like we used to, and it's really scary for us to see the smaller numbers on our list of listings. Right. But in fact, we're still selling. So do you guys see that as well?
I think that's a really good point. And I think a big driver of that is probably, the record low mortgage rates. That's huge. And that was a huge driver to putting and flooding the market with all of these buyers, because now they can finally afford to purchase because the interest rates were so low. Now that interest rates are expected to creep up a little, that might push us back into more of a balanced seller buyer pool.
We keep losing Meredith.
Yeah, you've got to love technology. The beauty of Zoom panels is you can throw them together in 10 minutes and, not have to find a venue and this and that.
There she
The
is.
disadvantage is,
They are.
Wi-Fi goes in and out.
We could put her on.
I kind of got, it was actually on one of my conversation starters, which this is great. I think we have a good flow here, but are there any I'm curious just from my knowledge, are there any hot pockets in the county that are moving quickly than others, or what are maybe some areas that are people are paying 10-20% over asking or under? I'm just curious of if there's any certain just areas.
I actually don't know about areas. I just know about, and any of the brokers can attest to this too, is when you have a property that's priced well and shows beautifully, they sell, right? They sell with multiple offers. You just bring buyers in and they fall in love with the place and they sell. I don't know if it's just any particular area. Maybe you guys have more insight into that than me.
I think we live in a very fortunate area. As much as many of us maybe complain about the state of Illinois and our governor and our different situations that we may live under, I think generally we live in a very well-populated, very diverse community, be it Cook County, DuPage County. I think we're very fortunate. When you travel different areas, be it on vacations or, just traveling to family in other states, I think we're very fortunate. Yeah, we do hear California, people are offering, $100,000 over asking price, and that seems so insane to us. But it's a different world than where we live. I think that generally we're fortunate, and I always say to my clients, don't be greedy, because that will get you nowhere. We're blessed in what most of our clients are getting for their homes. I think the whole community that we live in is doing very well.
I think we should redo the listing. We should redo the listing agreement and use, to quote Deneen Ruffalo, "Don't be greedy," and then you do the rest of the listing agreement. That's what I think. That's what I think. Every agreement.
Forget you. We don't want that.
Yeah, no, I know.
I mean, that's just good advice
right?
in general too. That's
Yeah.
good advice for life. Don't be greedy in life either.
It shouldn't be, but you're always going to find that. But I just think that, is there really a bad area? Let's put it that way. I mean, we live in a great community.
Well, and we do, because even our jobs, we're not a one industry town, or even, Chicagoland. If God forbid someone loses their job, you could stay here and get another job. You don't have to move. Right. If you were in Detroit, if you were, you only worked on cars, and and if that went down, you have to get out. But, we're just so diverse with our, opportunities here, to your point, that we are blessed. We're very blessed. So I'm not seeing hot pockets of, just general communities. I'm seeing hot pockets within those communities, like subdivisions. There are some people who are looking specifically for an elementary school or a high school, or because they want to be in there. So, I'm seeing it very, very down to the core of what people want.
Andy, look at your company. Look at Real Producers. You're dealing with real producers here. Where else are real producers magazine. What other communities have it? You know,
Yeah, I mean, that's a good point. We're in 100 markets, and I run, obviously, DuPage in the city. So generally speaking, if there is a real producers market in that city, it's usually extremely stable. And,
sure.
because of the nature of, it's targeted and who it goes to, they do a lot of research on those territories. So I was just curious. I liked your answer, Deneen, and Debbie, to your point, like it's not really more about, I was just curious from my general knowledge about, not necessarily about a neighborhood or a pocket of the county. It's just like more, hey, this school, of the, I don't know what you want to call it, the attraction of the area, I guess, depending on people's motivations and where they want to live. So
really motivation of people. And I think that's changed with COVID. I think people's motivations have changed, especially with schools. I think I know my own children have started thinking about schools a little differently, like what schools were in school during COVID and how did they teach the kids during COVID? Were they in school with masks? Were they Zooming with masks? Where were the teachers? That is playing an important role in how a family chooses where they want to live. And who would have ever thought that would be an issue? But we're living it. Where parks and pools have changed because they've all been closed.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I was wondering that too. Are people looking for more land of their own since parks and such aren't as open or, weren't as open? So do they want that land of their own? They could do whatever they want on it then.
Right.
In Chicagoland, I mean, green space is so important. All my clients are looking for balanced hardscaping, greenscaping. So they love the outdoor entertaining space or just relaxation space, but they also want some green space. So a good balance of both, I think, is always gets the buyer to fall in love with a property more than if you just have one giant patio or one enormous deck. They like the green grass too. So,
well, at that point, is it going to change too with as people do go back to the office, employers have seen how people have worked out of their home. Are they going to have a more hybrid office space? Are you going to be able to work from home and from the office? And are people going to start looking for homes with office space? And is that going to change our role as agents on finding homes with offices or redesigning office space for them?
Instead of that giant open floor plan that everybody loves,
right?
That doesn't work as well anymore.
And I would say for me, for just even, colleagues and friends and family, 50% of them are going to probably have some sort of hybrid employment when everything kind of goes back to normal. That it won't be 5 days a week anymore. So home offices probably are going to be a thing of the future for some time to come.
Hey, before I forget, oh, sorry, Debbie, before I forget, nope, you're good. You're going right after this. Formulate your thought, but I want to take a screenshot before I forget because we're, I don't know, 5, 6, 7 minutes out. So everybody smile. Do not be like my children and hold it for 2 seconds and then stop. So when you see me stop smiling, then you stop smiling. Okay, you ready? 2, 3. All right, I think we nailed it on the first try.
So we can't go like that or anything?
Is that where we start dancing again?
Yeah, right.
We could. It might just be blurred, Debbie, go ahead. What were you going to say?
No, I was just going to say, Shannon, you kind of made me chuckle when you were talking about, people wanting the yards again. I think that's come full circle because there was a big chunk of time there that we're showing houses and we all have a routine of how we show the houses, and I would go to open the door to go show the outside and they're like, no, we're good, we don't want to see it. I'm like, no, you have to see outside if you're buying this house. And now thank goodness they're opening the doors themselves to look outside. So that made me chuckle.
Yeah.
Well, I have a question if anybody would like to answer. This is something that I have never done before. And I want to do it this year. And it's how to have a client appreciation event. So for the agents out there or anybody who has a good idea, did you do anything last year? Or if not, are you planning to do it this year? And if you are, what is it? Because I haven't done one and I would really like to do one this year.
I think, Shannon, awesome question. It's so funny you asked that because that's on one of my conversation starters. So I'm glad you asked it. So I have a rule. I'm totally cool with awkward silence to let people think, but I have a rule. I count like 10 1,000 in my head, and then if nobody talks, then I'll jump in. So we're about 5 minutes out. So why don't we just do a quick little round robin with realtors and partners? If you guys are doing, client appreciation events and, inviting realtors who you work with and other family members, and then we'll kind of wrap up with that. So that is a great question to sort of to wrap up with. So anybody can talk first.
Yeah, I've seen people actually, and I've helped with them is, find a church parking lot and do a taco truck. You can still spread out there. You can still feel like, you're out in the open, but you're still entertaining people. And depending on what that church or that venue that you choose that's open and outdoor, maybe you can bring a margarita truck as well, or, have something fun with it too.
I'm going to write all these down too.
Yeah.
Mine
I mean,
won't help
we had
you
a
with that.
mariachi band and everything, but you don't got to go crazy.
Wow.
That sounds, I want to go. So mine's easy this year. I always struggle with it too, Shannon, but this is my first birthday for DPG Real Estate. So since we weren't able to do anything last year, we're going to have a whole hoopla over here, and we're going to combine it with the car show. So that's what we're doing this year.
Nice.
So even before the pandemic, then we had to take a little bit of a break. What I've done is I do an event every month for agents. Well, I've been doing it at Sullivan's Steakhouse now for about 1.5 years in Naperville. But what I've done is I've combined that. So every other month is some sort of educational thing where I have somebody come in and speak, a lender, mover, whatever it may be. But then every other month has been my appreciation for the agents that use me. So we've done trivia night, we've done a bingo night. We're going to be doing another team trivia night, I think in September. So I've tried to, at least kind of mix a little bit of education with a little bit of thanks for all the agents that use me. So we've been doing some of those types of events.
That sounds like a lot of fun.
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't have anything planned yet this year. I think this summer, like I said, I feel like it's just going to be crazy for everyone, but I have thought about it for the fall or even maybe next spring. But 2 years ago, we did the movie at the Tivoli, which I feel like was just a great family experience. So maybe something like that again.
Good idea. I haven't planned anything, Shannon. I'm trying to talk my husband into putting a pool in the backyard so we could do an event, but I haven't talked him into that yet. So it's on hold.
Good luck with that.
Yeah. That's what I'm
All I heard was pool party at Deneen's.
Yep.
So
Yep, I'm working on it.
That's all I heard.
You're all invited.
And
We
mariachi.
haven't planned anything yet.
In a mariachi band, yeah.
I just want-
I'll bring my mariachi band. We're good.
Okay. Sounds good, Kelly.
Go ahead, Woytec. What were you saying, man?
Yeah, like I said, I haven't planned anything yet because I just want to know what the situation right now is. It's getting better, but yeah, I have to think about something else, but I don't know what yet.
Is anybody concerned about COVID moving forward with your appreciation plans? Is that even an issue anymore for these types of events or parties?
I think we're always going to have in mind safety more than we ever have in the past. But I think, we can only do so much if and then at some point, the people who are coming kind of will decide as well. But
I think that's been a huge thing whenever we've done events as well. If people are uncomfortable coming, or if they're only comfortable wearing a mask, that's totally understandable. It's all of what everybody's comfortable with. And that's why I think we've liked to offer kind of spaced out events as large of a venue as we can with this, a roundabout number of not a crazy amount of people, to make sure that everybody feels comfortable, even if they're a little uncomfortable. that makes sense.
And like everybody else, it's an individual decision. You want to wear a mask? Totally fine with it. You don't? We're totally fine with it, as long as you're in compliance with what the rules are of wherever we're at.
Mhm.
I think now that everybody's getting their, second shot and the comfort zone is better, the weather is better, we can be outside. I would hope that people that don't choose to get vaccinated would keep their mask on. I think people are more comfortable.
Mhm. Well, thank you.
Agreed. I'm glad it's on the horizon. Well, hey guys, I want to be respectful of everybody's time. My thoughts on it. We're an organization, so we can't just jump, balls out into it. However, I think if we're getting the process going now, I think in a month or two, people will be 90% comfortable, or I think is like now, and I'm making up percentages. I have no evidence to back this up, or like more 40 to 60% comfortable. At least that's kind of the vibe that I'm getting. So, and with Wrigley opening up too, I think that was huge. So, we will stop. I'm going to stop the live stream right now. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. Okay, live stream
Thank
stop.
you,
Seriously,
everyone.
guys, thanks so much.
Good seeing everybody.
I will send an email out with everybody's info in case you want to connect after, with the live feed and also the YouTube link.
Great.
But you guys know the drill. For those of you who've been on one of these, if you want to get on another one of these in a month or two, we can shuffle the deck, get some different realtors, different partners on. Happy to do it. I'll let you guys go out and make money. Thanks for hanging out.
Thank you,
with us.
Andy.
Awesome.
Thanks,
Bye,
Andy.
everybody.
Thanks,
Thank
guys.
you.
Bye.
Good day.
Bye.
Bye.